visualise and imagine a Belgian, a Muslim, a Protestant, a Croat, a Celt, a Bosnian, a Jew, a Slav, a Pole, a Canadian, a Catholic. Don't stop. The list is as endless as the human race.
Before we continue with Maud, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Autograph, because then it also makes sense why we're showing her work. Because Autograph really started back in 1988 as an agency, as an organisation to promote the work of black artists. Because at the time, late 1980s, early 1990s, there was this whole wave, I would say, of black artists kind of feeling that there was no space to present their work, not enough representation by the established organisations. They kind of came together, applied for funding from the Arts Council and got that. So it was always with the idea of pushing first their own work and then also work of other artists. In a way, at least I have a lot of admiration for it. She's a visual artist from Scottish Ghanaian descent. She wasn't just a visual artist, she was a poet, a playwright. She ran a commercial gallery for a while in London. She was a mother of two daughters. She was an activist within the LGBT community, so she's really doing all these things. I'm really proud of that as well, so that's kind of at the forefront of what she's trying to do. So Circus was produced in 1993 as part of a residency that she did in Wrexham. What she was actually trying to do during that residency is pay attention to the black genocide during the Second World War, because she felt that this is something that's been written out of history. She was really thinking about how can you describe such a complex part of history, and she was toying with the idea of producing a diary, but felt that we couldn't quite do that, and also with Anne Frank in mind, she wasn't quite sure if it would copy that too much. So at some point she started thinking of the idea of a scrapbook. She's found this old photo album containing these landscape postcards, and that's what she started using. And actually, if you look at the photo montages, the blue paper at the background, that is actually the old. These are the old pages from the photo albums. The landscape postcards are interesting because they kind of, they refer to holidays, to traveling, having a good time. At the same time, this is like layer number one already. This particular landscape, like this Middle European type of mountainous landscape, it's also really quite closely associated within Nazi ideology with racial purity, and so the fact that she's using that already kind of immediately subverts. And then she started looking at other things to contrast it with. One of the things that she started using is these African art objects. So what she's done is she's gone through like all these museum catalogs of and cut out all these art objects and started pasting them onto these landscapes. And really what she's trying to do there is she's kind of trying to refer to the presence of Africans in Europe. And that's not something that's a recent thing that goes back for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but it's something that, again, that's kind of written out of history and kind of unacknowledged. So by putting them square into this landscape, it's like really pushing the message, like, guys, we've been here for a long time. And it's also a comment on how these art objects were photographed, because if you think about it, like if you go, for example, to the British Museum, like you have all these objects that have been taken out of their context as a result of colonialism, taken here to Britain or to the US or wherever, it doesn't really matter. They're taken out of their original context and they're displayed against these white backdrops and then photographed. And so any kind of connotation with the original context is lost. So she's kind of playing with that by putting them back into a context, even if it's not the original. So these two photographs that she's got out, these are made by Nadar, and Nadar is like one of the, I would almost say, founding fathers of photography. A very important portrait photographer. And the interesting thing is that he's photographed these two people. And this is Alexander Dumas. We think, but we're not quite sure, but we're assuming for now that this is Jean Duval. And Nadar, in his original photographs, named him did not name her. Whereas she's an artist in her own right. She was also the muse of Charles Baudelaire. So why does her name get dropped? Why do we not know who she is? And Sulter was really trying to question that. And I think by tentatively identifying her as Jeanne Duval and giving her back her name and presenting her alongside him is really putting her back on equal footing with him. At least that's my interpretation. And what I find interesting as well is like if you look at the place of the elephant, like his face is getting obscured, whereas her face is becoming more visible. But she started using these African art objects to replace. So again, she's doing that, like, you know, I'm here, don't ignore me. Because one of the things that she's trying to do within her own body of work is really pay attention to the contribution that women make to society, and especially black women to the arts. She's done that in a number of bodies of work. One of them is called Zabat, which is a series of portraits of the muses from the classical myths, but then she's portrayed black women in those roles, so really kind of putting that on its head. So that's something that always comes back, like let's not forget about this. Let's keep remembering these women and what they've done.
Collage and organiser, a Belgian British she wasn't a Croat, a Celt, a Bosnian, a Jew, a Slav, a Pole, a Canadian, a Catholic. Don't stop. The list is as endless as the human race.